Hello and welcome back to Capping Corner. We're going to talk about the Belmont Stakes on Saturday at Saratoga, and we are winding down the season, so to speak. And I will still have a recap of the Belmont Stakes, so it's not over yet, but once I do the recap of the Belmont Stakes, then I'll probably take a few months off. Unless I'm inspired to do a video, I don't know. I mean, I would have to be really inspired, but the plan is to take some time off after the Belmont Stakes recap. So there is one or two more videos coming up. But let's talk about the Belmont Stakes. And we'll start off with Journalism, the 8 to 5 favorite. And then I'll talk about who I want to bet in my tickets. Journalism has done nothing but run good races. His only blemish besides his career debut was the Kentucky Derby, where he ran second to Sovereignty. And I actually picked him on top that day. I had Journalism over Sovereignty and I think Chunk of Gold. And I was only a length and a half away from getting that exacta, but it didn't work out. And let's watch the Preakness Stakes. He came back in 2 weeks to win the Preakness Stakes in a spectacular manner after getting into trouble on the far turn. And let's take a look at that race and see what happened. Now, whether it was Rispoli's fault for putting Journalism into a tight spot, or Pratt on goal oriented for keeping him pinned down, it doesn't matter. The point was that Journalism was in a bad spot right here. And you see how tight he was in between goal-oriented and clever again. And it didn't look like Journalism was going to recover from that. It looked like he was going to be stuck in second or third. But Journalism regathered his momentum, and you see Rispoli with the right-handed whip. Journalism is going to mow down Gosker in incredible fashion, and that was almost like a miracle win. And I thought it was very impressive. It doesn't matter what the number is. He went down on Bayer, and he went up on Breeze. So it's kind of confusing. It doesn't matter what the number is. It was an impressive race. And the only reason I'm going to go against him in this spot is because of the value. And everyone saw the trouble. Everyone saw the Preakness Stakes. So it's not like you're coming up with something clever by saying, oh, he went into trouble and he still got it done. Because everyone saw it. And he could win, but I'm going to try to beat him. So maybe it'll be a mistake. We'll see. Let's talk about the Kentucky Derby winner, Sovereignty. He won the Kentucky Derby back in May 3. It feels like a long time ago now. But he won over Journalism. Let's take a look at that race and see how he won the Kentucky Derby. I have no problem with anyone saying, well, Sovereignty beat Journalism here in the stretch drive, and Journalism backed up the race with his Preakness win. So naturally, Sovereignty would be the choice in the Belmont Stakes. I wonder if moving last gave him the advantage, or moving after Journalism gave him the advantage, because we saw that he was following Journalism around the far turn, and then once Journalism made his move, then Sovereignty made his move. And I wonder if that gave him the advantage, because it was a tiring track, and he won by a length and a half at the end. But Journalism did make the first move, and it was a fast pace that they both had to close into. And I don't know. I just want to take a higher price than Sovereignty. I know he could win. I know Journalism can win. I know they're both two good horses. I just want a better price than both of them. But I respect both Sovereignty and Journalism, and I have no problem with anyone who wants to take either of them. But I'm going to go with a higher price or two in this race. Baeza is back after finishing a closing third in the Kentucky Derby, and before that he was second to Journalism in the Santa Anita Derby. Let's watch the Kentucky Derby again, and let's follow Baeza as he made his move in the stretch run. Baeza had some trouble early on in the Kentucky Derby, so he was as far back as 15th, and then he made his way through traffic, and I'm going to try to follow him with my cursor right now. The jockey's wearing purple and yellow. It's hard to tell because of all the mud. And you see him, I think he's in 4th right now. You see him drifting out to the right. And he sort of got in the way of Final Gambit. But he's going to pass Owen Almighty right now. And you see he's right behind Sovereignty and Journalism. And he's almost going to catch Journalism for second. But he just missed. And I thought it was a good effort considering his lack of experience. He only had one graded stake start before that, the Santa Anita Derby. And he barely missed in that race. He was only 3/4 of a length behind Journalism, and his other 3 starts were maiden races, so I think Baez is a good horse, and I think he's on the upswing. Remember, he's a half-brother to Dornoch and Mage, so it's in this horse's blood to compete in races like this, And I think even if he's not as good as Sovereignty or Journalism in those races in the Kentucky Derby and Santa Anita Derby, the fact that he's improving means he could surpass them in this race, or match them at least, and maybe beat them with a good trip. And so I'm going to take a shot with Baeza in this race. He's going to be 4 to 1 or 9 to 2 or around there. And I think that's value odds for me for a horse that isn't far off the top two, or maybe just as good as them by now. And I think with a good trip, he can beat them. I'm not going to take Baeza alone. I also want to talk about Rodriguez. And Rodriguez is a horse who needs the lead. He has Mike Smith on board, so I think he will go for the lead. And we saw that in his maiden race on January 4, he crushed Baeza by 7 lengths. Although it was an undeveloped version of Baeza, but still, that was a good sign. And let's watch the race. Rodriguez is on the lead right now. Baeza is on the outside in third. And you'll see that Baeza can't keep up. Rodriguez is pulling away under his own power mostly. He did get hit by the whip right there, but it was just a light tap, and Baeza is just not good enough in this race. Why am I using a January race to handicap the Belmont Stakes in June? I just want to point out how good Rodriguez is when he gets the lead. He also won the Wood Memorial on the lead, and that 105 is not that far off the best horses in this race, Journalism and Sovereignty in the 107, 108 range. And we just saw Baeza, he was around there as well. So Rodriguez is not that far off, and I think if Mike Smith just sends him to the lead, he's going to have a shot to win. Maybe he's not the best horse on paper, maybe he doesn't have the best shot, but that's why he's higher odds. He's 6 to 1 on the morning line, and I think that's accurate. I think he will be around 6 to 1. If Mike Smith sends him to the lead, he has a shot to get brave and steal this race, and I'm going to use him on my ticket with Baeza. Let's talk about some underneath possibilities. Hill Road is the most obvious underneath possibility. He won the Peter Pan Stakes, and he was third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And if you watched the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, he was the only one closing at the end. The pace wasn't that fast according to Breeze. They gave it a -8 and -7 for 1C and 2C. And the fact that he was closing at the end after those fractions means he ran a good race. And the Peter Pan Stakes was a nice race to rebound off the third place finish in the Tampa Bay Derby. He has a shot to hit the board, and if you're playing a trifecta or superfecta, he has to be on there. Heart of Honor is more of a stretch, but he's 30 to 1 on the morning line, and I didn't think I would like his Preakness Stakes when I gave it a closer look. But on second inspection, he did make up some ground in the stretch. He did finish 5th after being in 9th by 13 lengths at one point, or by 15 lengths at 2C. He was 5th at the end by 8 3/4 of a length. So he did make up some ground. I have to give him some credit. I don't think he can win, but if you're playing a superfecta or trifecta, you might want to throw him in at the bottom just to see if he hits the board and maybe add some spice to the trifecta or superfecta payoffs. He's 30 to 1 on the morning line, and I believe he will be 30 to 1 or around there. So if you want a long shot, a mega long shot to include in your trifecta or superfecta, maybe throw this one underneath. Baez is my top choice in the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, but I'm also going to include Rodriguez in case he gets loose on the lead. If he gets loose on the lead and the fractions are reasonable, Rodriguez can win. But if the pace gets hot, then Baeza will be right there fighting with Sovereignty and Journalism. So I have it covered either way. And it all depends on what Crudo does. I didn't talk about Crudo, but he's a long shot trained by Pletcher, and maybe we can look at him really quick. Crudo right there, 15 to 1, and he has some speed as you can see from his past performances, but it depends on whether or not he uses it, because it's a suicide mission to go with Rodriguez on the lead, and I think John Velasquez knows that. We'll see what happens. In the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, Baez is my top choice, Rodriguez is my second choice, and I do respect Journalism and Sovereignty. So those are my top 4 in the race. Thanks for listening, and I will have a recap of the race, so this is not the end. It's getting to the end of the season, but it's not the end. I will have a recap of the Belmont Stakes. And I'll see you for the recap, and enjoy the race, and good luck with your bets.